Well, it's cut-down day in the NFL. The Eagles reached the 53-man limit. I'm Dave Spadaro, Eagles insider at the NovaCare Complex with Howie Roseman, the man who went from 90 to 53. Let's talk about the Eagles as they stand now. Just some initial thoughts, Howie, before I really grill you on position by position.
Well, first, it's a hard day. You talk about this whole process, and this whole organization comes together for training camp. Everyone in this building prepares for training camp on and off the field. And then you have these players who busted their butt all through the offseason, through the mini camps, and then through training camp. And then you have to sit down with them and tell them at this moment they're not part of the team. So it's a hard day. It's a hard day for us. It's a hard day for them because we've picked them. We've chosen them to be on this team, and now we got to tell them at this point they're not here. So I think first just thanking everyone in the organization and everyone who was here for their contributions and just being part of the Eagles organization.
How do you feel about the 53?
Yeah, I mean, separating those emotions because it is a hard day for all of us and hard to let those guys go. We're excited. We have a good football team and we have a lot of talent. Now we have to come together as a team, and that comes through the course of the year and going through things together and really kind of growing as a team and getting those guys on the field to gel, and we have the right coaching staff to do that.
I got to tell you, the initial reaction I think from a lot of fans is because you set these expectations, everybody remembers Sam Bradford. No big trades, no bombshells on this day. How were as you led up to Saturday, how active were you? How close were you to making deals?
A lot of phone calls through the course of the week, and just trying to find if there's any fit, if there's right fits. But I think for us, we like the players that we have. We built this team, and we collected talent through the offseason, and we talked about this on the field the other day, which is, you spend the whole offseason trying to collect talent. And now you're trying to build a team. And so you're trying to make sure the chemistry is right. You're trying to make sure the culture is right. You're trying to make sure that every role has a fit. And that means, that the fifth wide receiver has a certain role, that the fourth safety has a certain role, so that it all fits together. The pieces fit together on offense, on defense, on special teams. So, it's a transition for us over the last week about kind of going from that collect talent and collect as much talent as we possibly can on our 90 to building the 53. And at the same time, looking at it from a perspective of we have 63 guys who are going to practice. We're going to have 46 guys who are active, and what's that going to look like as well?
I have to ask you this. Reports out there in the last couple of days here, Jadeveon Clowney interested in the Philadelphia Eagles. Was there any traction there at all?
Well, first, we're not going to talk about any trade talks about any player. Those are relationships we have with people around the league, and we make sure everything's kind of quiet. But we will always look into anyone that's available. Every single player that comes available, we will do our due diligence on it. Every single player.
Fair enough.
And then,
go ahead. Please keep going.
And then from there, we have to figure out what fits. We want to keep this team together. We want to keep our own players. So it's not just the compensation in terms of picks, players. It's also how that affects us going forward, how we can keep the team together, who we can extend, who we can extend. So there are a lot of factors that go into place for every player, not just the player you asked about, but every player. And so we look at every single thing, but we also inquire about everything and see what it will take to cost every single thing.
Not just for this year, but for the years to come.
No doubt.
Okay, position by position, we've got 3 quarterbacks here. How do you feel about that room?
Love that room. Really excited about having a strong quarterback room, which is really something that starts our foundation, and it's our principles about having 3 quarterbacks we really believe in. Adding Josh, just really a good mix of veteran leadership, some youth. We forget Carson's 26 years old and Nate's a young guy. So having those 3 guys, just really excited about that room.
In March, as recently as March, you were asked at the NFL's annual meeting about the running backs, and there was a bit of panic. What are you going to do at the running back position? Well, since that time, you trade for Jordan Howard, you draft Miles Sanders, you bring back Darren Sproles, Corey Clement is healthy. How do you feel about the running backs?
Well, it goes back to trying to make sure that everything fits, that the chemistry and the culture fits. And you look at those guys, and Jordan has a different skill set than Miles, and Darren brings something different, and Corey brings something different. And so we like how that room's come together. And at the same time, let go some good players today, some players who contributed for us and been an important part of our team. So that was a hard day of decisions to make at that position, but feel good about where we are, and certainly feel good about where we've come from when we started the offseason.
At wide receiver, Howie, we kind of knew going in the top 4. Mack Hollins makes the 53. What did you see in Mack that earned him the spot?
Well, it goes back to Mac really when we drafted him, and Mac had been one of the best special teamers in the country when we drafted him, and we feel like he has those tools in his body. And there are certain things that we need from that fifth receiver role, and just based on the composition of our team and where we are right now, and we think Mac can fill those needs.
Okay, 2 tight ends on the roster. We love Zach. We love Dallas. That's not a question. People wondering about the third spot. What would you do in an emergency situation?
Yeah, well, again, I'd go back to, we view the roster as having 63 guys. Having guys, we haven't set our practice squad yet, and so we plan on addressing that as we go forward here, hopefully in the next 24 hours. And then, the roster where it is today will be fluid. We're constantly looking for upgrades. We'll go back here upstairs, and we'll be here late tonight and trying to find ways to improve the team if it's possible. It's always impossible to improve the team.
I understand.
But if it's possible at this moment.
At this moment, 24th, though, in the claim, it's going to be difficult, right, to get a player that late? Yes?
Yeah.
No? Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Offensive line, you're always stockpiling offensive linemen, and the player who kind of emerges from nowhere, and it's a credit to the scouting department here, Nate Herbig, not drafted, makes the 53.
Yeah, you got to give a lot of credit to our scouting department and our coaching staff. Coach Stoutland did a tremendous job here with Nate, and we went to him early in training camp and said, hey, if Nate's going to have a shot, he's got to play another position. He's got to have position versatility, and he said, this guy's smart enough, he can do it. I've seen him snap. Let's move him over to center. And having the versatility to do it, just turned 21 years old, a big, powerful guy who's got good feet and balance, and so we're excited that we have a good mix of youth and veteran leadership at that position. And like you said, it's always going to start for us on the lines. So we went in, we're carrying 20 linemen, which maybe is heavy to some, but for us, it's where it starts and how we're going to build this. The lines and the quarterback, it's going to start there. So, we got 23 guys there, and that's a lot of players.
Among those 20 players are 3 young defensive ends who we've looked at throughout the offseason, throughout the preseason, throughout training camp, with Deshaun Hall, with Sharif Miller, with Josh Sweat. What have you seen from them, and how ready are they to contribute?
Well, you start with Deshaun, and really you got to give the guy a tremendous amount of credit. Changed his body in the offseason, and he's a guy that when you look back at his career at Texas A&M, third-round pick, his testings were off the charts. He had production at Texas A&M, had some adversity, and really came here and had a sack against the Texans last year, was on special teams. Then, as we discussed, changed his body a little bit. And really, when you're looking at it from afar, if he was on a different team, he'd be the guy that stands out the most. Had the most production of any defensive end in the National Football League over training camp, deserved a spot on this team, and just proud of his effort. Josh, a guy we drafted in the 4th round, he's got tremendous potential in his body. And so you look at Josh, and he got better through the preseason. He has an array of moves, and we're excited about his potential. And then with Sharif, you saw in games he flashed, and he's got athleticism. And at the same time, we got to remember he's a rookie, and we're a developmental program, and we want to develop our players that have talent. And so at the same time as we're trying to win, we're also understand that this is a rookie player who is coming in here and has a ceiling, and we want him to hit that ceiling.
Howie, how do you turn a riddle here? How do you turn a 5-man draft class into 7 rookies? Well, 4 of them make the active roster from the draft class. 2 of them undrafted make it. And then another player I count at part of the draft class, Hassan Ridgeway, who you made the trade for day 3 of the draft. So I say 7 players from the draft class.
But I don't understand. If you ask a riddle, aren't you supposed to wait for the answer? You're supposed to answer your own riddle?
That's the way I do things here.
It's rhetorical.
It's a rhetorical riddle. Yeah. Hassan Ridgeway, T.J. Edwards, part of that draft haul. Tell me about those guys.
Yeah, Hassan's a powerful guy. He's powerful, he's athletic, and again, you try to just figure out mixes and matches on defensive line and particular skill sets, how they match up, and certain techniques that we're looking for, and so Hassan, he balances kind of what we have there and what we're looking for, and so we're excited about that. The preseason games are a part of our evaluation for sure, but so are the whole off-season program, so is training camp practices, and so we look at all of those together, and we go and we make a decision based on that. And when we looked at that body of work, he deserves to be on this team, and he's a young player that we're excited to see about his development too.
TJ and the linebackers, tell me about that group. I know Camus is not healthy yet. Nigel working his way back as well. How do you feel about linebackers?
Yeah, I think that when we get those guys together as a group, it's a good group. You talk about Nigel and the contributions he's made to our football team since he's been here, and And then Camus, Coach Schwartz has talked about it this offseason, about the growth that he's shown. I'm really excited to get him back and think he's going to take a jump. And Zach Brown's been a productive NFL player. We signed L.J. Ford, who we think has 4-down value and a really good athlete and has started in this league. And then you have Nate Gary, who's been on this team as well. And then you mentioned TJ, and just a really smart, instinctive football player who did a good job this training camp and this preseason to earn a spot today.
Cornerback ravaged by injuries last year. Howie, you've got 4 of them here now. Let's talk about that group, please.
Yeah, well, we have 5 Crayvons on the roster today too.
Right, true.
And we placed Jalen Mills on PUP, and he's making tremendous progress. At the same time, we're really excited to get him back, and Crayvon will be healthy. That's not a season-ending injury. That's why he's on the roster today. At the same time, you can never have enough cornerback depth, so it's always a position that you continue to look for. But that goes back to the answer about we got a 63-man roster. Those guys practice and they're eligible to come up and play too. So we'll see what we do in the next 24 hours to make sure that position is filled on the 63-man roster.
And then Howie, finally, the specialists all remain the same. Finally, safety position. Bringing back McLeod, who's healthy now. Great to see him out there. Love the, knock on wood, Andrew Zendejo. Love the signing. Seems like he fits right in. And then Cyprian makes it and Ford makes it. Not a lot of people know about those two.
Yeah, Cyprian's a player who really had to come in a different role. He started every game. He's been in the National Football League when he's been healthy. Missed last year and came in here. And you said it, like Zendejo's had a tremendous off-season training camp. Preseason games, really good player, really excited to have him, getting Rodney and Malcolm back. And so, for him, his role is going to be a little bit different. And as the 4th safety, that role is different. And there's some expectation on special teams that he didn't have when he was a starter. And then Rudy Ford's just a guy who jumped off the tape on special teams. He can really make a difference, be a difference maker on special teams. Didn't play in that game, but we expect him to be back in short order. And we expect them to make a difference on special teams. Good
stuff. You can line up and be a contender. You feel that way?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. Washington Redskins next Sunday. That's the attention here. Next 24 hours, we'll find out about the Eagles and the practice squad. We thank Howie Roseman for joining us. Congratulations. The Eagles' initial 53-man roster is out. Check it out on PhiladelphiaEagles.com, our official app, and our social media channels. Thanks for joining us.